Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is a sales and management trainer, investor, and all-around playful human, Nema Semnani. We're going to talk with him about what it's like to be a playful human. You can find him at precision.sandler.com. You can find Playful Humans at playfulhumans.com. If you need a little more fun, flow, fulfillment in your life, feeling a little burned out and bored, check out playfulhumans.com. Join our clubhouse to have more fun. Here we go.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Live for today. Keep on chasing the sunshine and go out and play.
So first of all, Nema, that's the outro theme music. So we just ended the podcast extremely early on this one. I like it.
Listen, I think we said it all, you know. I think I enjoyed myself, and hope you did as well.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. Okay, so I'm going to play the intro music on our way out then. That'll fix that. And we like to start with the joke of the week. So the joke of the week is brought to you by Selfhelp books. The easiest way to feel better about yourself without actually doing anything, try a self-help book today. I have a joke here. I made a playlist, a Spotify playlist for hiking. If anybody loves to play and get outside and hike, I put music from the Peanuts, the Cranberries, and Eminem. I call it my trail mix. So check that out. Nema, do you have a favorite joke?
By the way, I don't know what's the most playful thing that's we can done is playing the outro music at the beginning. That's pretty playful to start off the the show.
Just a nice pattern interrupt, shake things up there. Start with the outro. Work your way backwards
over here on the Playful Humans podcast. Okay, all right. So a joke of the week. I'll share one of my mom's favorite jokes. She thinks it's hilarious. I don't know if it is, but she loves it. So here's a joke. There's this guy sitting at home. He's minding all his business, watching TV, and there's a knock at the door, and he goes to the door, and he opens it, and he looks left, looks right, doesn't see anyone, and he looks down, and he sees a snail, and he just grabs the snail and just throws it as far as he can. Goes back inside and sits down. 3 years later, he's sitting there on the couch, minding his business, and another knock at the door. Goes to the door, opens it, looks around. It's that snail again. The snail said, "What the hell is that all about?"
I like that one. I've heard that one before too. And then I was gonna set you up because I picked the self-help book sponsor today because I saw your stand-up comedy act at Caroline's. You did stand-up comedy for fun, and you had some jokes about self-help books, which I really love, or had some thoughts on self-help books. So can you share those with us?
I actually didn't make that connection. So and it's funny because sometimes I realized when I was doing the joke that I was probably maybe slightly insulting the very same clients I had who were watching, because it's not that I don't believe in, Dan Sullivan, 10X-ing your business, or the various things. I think they're awesome. I just thought it'd be fun to have self-help books for average people who wanted to be more average, or it's like everyone's like, how to go from 1 to 10. It's like, can we just go to 2? See how that feels. Try that on for a couple of days. So I think it was like 3X growth. Still a lot of growth. It kind of seems easier, So.
And I like the good to great. Good to great is very ambitious. How about going from like failing to I'll take it,
Yeah. How about like wildly mediocre to like, it's
yeah, not bad. Yeah, I survived. I covered my bills.
I don't know how to properly title like a sound. Like how does one spell? I guess it's EH, but like
we'll find out what Zoom translates it to when we process the recording here. I'll let you know. But I think that's a great place to start. So you are a sales and management trainer with Sandler. Obviously, both of us have been involved there together for years, and you have a lot of fun with that. You do your own content and videos, and you've done the comedy. You're obviously a great trainer and entertainer from the stage. But I think the reason I wanted to have you on is you like to have fun and be creative and be playful with it. I think a lot of times what we're talking about there with self-help books is people take the things way too seriously. They turn it into a grind, and to be an entrepreneur and an investor, you have to work 180 hours a week and not sleep and do all this to be successful. And what I found is most people who are successful do not follow that model. Very, very few people do, at least long-term successful and sustainable. What are your thoughts on that these days?
Well, I'll start with the most recent book by Dan Pink, came out a few years ago now, but called When. And it's kind of the science of timing, and it takes the concept of timing in every single conceivable way. And I remember when he talked about high performers and the whole assumption that these top athletes are working themselves nonstop for hours on end is just factually inaccurate. And what Dan said is, if you look at any single performer, whether it's a sprinter or a swimmer or a performance athlete of any kind, what you actually find is intense periods of work followed by rest. And that is really the way in which people develop. So I would say, and I can't speak for many others other than myself and people in my network, but I think that there's a lot of truth to. There are people who work extremely hard, work extremely smart, are extremely ambitious. Rarely is it this nonstop 90-hour slog. It tends to be periods of intensity with periods of rest and kind of rinse and repeat. And that's really, it's how our muscles, need to develop, as well as, up here and everything else. So that's what I would, that's how I would probably frame that piece.
Yeah, I kind of see a couple of things in there. I mean, one, Patrick Mahomes is a good example. By the time this comes out, he will have at least played in his second Super Bowl. Right now, we don't know whether he wins or not. But I was watching a video on him, and he scored like 40 points in a high school playoff basketball game. He was drafted to the Major League Baseball out of high school and turned it down to play football in college. But everybody thinks that like 13-year-olds have to specialize and pick their sport and play football year round to make it to the NFL. And you're like, no, actually the guy who's best in the entire league was playing 3 sports, and he's still probably shooting hoops and doing things. I think he said, I saw that in another video too. He said he was building a basketball court in the backyard of his new house here in Kansas City. And he's like, don't tell the GM that, but but he's playing golf. They're doing other things. They're not just solely focused on one thing. That's a really good way to burn yourself out and not become the best. Like you said, I think you need to play, you need to recover, you need to learn, train, and practice, and then you need to perform at your best for short periods of time, but not really long ones. So let me ask that to you. How do you play? How do you recover and do things outside of work?
Well, I would say I'm almost entirely in a state of play. I'm probably 70-30 play, 30% whatever non-play looks like.
Taxes and yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I'm going to take this question and speak to it very literally, and then also kind of speak to it on the higher level, and maybe weave a little science in between. Like when I started this business, and as you know, when we kind of go through a lot of exercises, we are encouraged to write our mission and vision statements, and they're extremely important. I'm a big believer. And early on in this business, I didn't really know what to write. So I wrote something that I thought was a joke and realized it was the 100% capital T truth as it pertained to my business, and specifically in like the training arc of it. Because obviously, we do consulting other aspects, but like the training arc of it, I wrote, I want to create an environment where people have fun and they want to come back. And if they come back long enough, they'll learn something. And so I wrote that because it was like a one-liner, like, what do you want your trainers to be? And I was like, well, I think ultimately, if we create an environment people enjoy and they're engaged and they're laughing and they're playing, then they're going to look forward to it. They're going to come back. They'll come back for long enough, and then they will learn something. And obviously, they learn from day one. But and it's so important, not just in our business. I mean, no one wants to have, if you're a trainer of any kind, a leader of any kind, no one wants to have hostages. You know, people who show up because they have to, because if they don't, they'll, you know, be penalized somehow. Like whether it's the largest corporate client I have or, you know, relatively a small business, I want people to look forward to it. I want people to find it valuable, but I also want people to find it engaging, and that's why they come back. It's not like, I have to go to Sandler. It's I get to go to Sandler today. And and to me, that is play. So that's kind of the literal as to how I incorporate it into the way in which I viewed it. And then I would say on the higher level, the conceptual, it doesn't matter what you look at. There's a great TED radio hour called Press Play. So you can probably find that, and multitude of TED Talks on play. And then you look at every civilized, civilized probably in some ways more than we are, but every advanced species, whether it's chimpanzees, whether it's orcas, they are literally playing. That is how they are passing along their culture. That's how they're learning to hunt. That's how they're building their bonds. Play wasn't just this thing that they do and stop doing. You know, once they were like the kids and the calves and the orcapods, like, all right, Steve the orca, you're 2 years old. It's time to stop playing. They never stop playing. And it's because it's how they learn, it's how they pass their culture. And it's actually extremely important, and I would probably say crucial to their survival as a species. I would say ironically, not all of us, but I would say ironically, we're probably the only advanced species that views play as not an essential aspect.
Right. That's frivolous.
Every other advanced species has it figured out, right? And then we view it oftentimes, not everyone, as okay, do all the work stuff you have to do, and then you get to go play. When in actuality, in a literal sense for our world, if we're helping someone learn something tactically on the selling or management side, one of the best ways people learn is to find a way to tie that to something emotional or memorable. And a lot of times games and play and laughter and whatever works for that person and their audience will probably make a more direct neural pathway connection than the here is this thing, you may want to do it because it's important.
Yeah, I mean, when you sit down and think about it, it makes a ton of sense, right? That human beings are meant to be moving and laughing and enjoying, and you have to have an environment where you're open and receptive to learning. You can't force anybody to learn anything, just like you can't force them to play or have fun. It has to be a voluntary act. So I think, like, for me, play opens those doors. When people are laughing, they're paying attention, they're voluntarily giving you their attention, rather than you saying, sit down in this chair and stare at me for the next 90 minutes and I'm going to force knowledge into your head. Like that clearly wouldn't work very well, right? When people volunteer and they opt in and they're genuinely interested in paying attention, then it opens up all of the other possible learnings. I love what you said too about just when you look at other species, the power of play, that they're not worried about getting ahead or paying their bills or trying to save for retirement. They're trying to enjoy their time here on this planet. And that's a large different goal. We're the only ones that have screwed it up and tried to make it about more than that, right?
I just realized in this moment, they're also the only other species that don't care what other animals think of them.
Right, exactly.
You think
that's
there's a bunch
part of the problem for sure. Yeah.
You think there's a bunch of orcas like swimming on pod, like, oh man, I hope the seals don't see us doing this. It's like they don't know. I mean, and I think orcas. I'm a little obsessed with orcas, but orcas are the smartest creature on the planet, and that includes humans, by the way. And it's not that they're not emotionally intelligent, not that they're aware. It's like they just why would they care what it's like a porpoise passes by. It's like, oh, stop, guys, be serious. We have a company. And so I think that to a point, and it's kind of a silly point, but I think it makes a larger importance message, which is that I think people can sometimes confuse playfulness for childishness.
Right.
I consider myself to be a very ambitious, very motivated person that spends a lot of time honing my craft and reading as much as I can and practicing and preparing. And those who work with me know that about me. I'm not the guy to, if I'm not going to show up and just wing it, whether or not I can. Unless literally the session topic is to wing it, right? Sometimes there are session topics where it's like like how to think on your feet kind of thing, improv games and whatnot. But I can be playful while also being serious. I can be serious about the business, serious about wanting to help people, while also not taking myself too seriously and realizing the best way I can help someone or help a company is to humanize this. And that's a mistake I think oftentimes people make, human beings aren't.
They try to systematize it. That's the way I say it, is like, oh, we need to have this process and we need it to be so rigid that even an idiot can follow it. And it takes all the magic out of it. You're like, well, we'll just program a robot to do that then. If that's what you want them to do, we need to humanize it, not systematize it. And there are benefits for having things reproducible and efficient and things like that, but only to a point. That's not the whole goal of life, on your deathbed, man, I was so efficient. I mean, that's not what you're going to say, right?
Yeah. No, and I think I use this a lot in my selling environment, literally in sales calls. I'll say, hey, what is one of the reasons why Starbucks or Five Guys or In-N-Out Burger is successful? And they'll say, oh, well, Starbucks, consistency. I'm like, that's exactly right. The latte in Albuquerque is made similarly, if not the same, as the latte in Arlington, Virginia, close to where I'm at. But here's the difference. Systematizing things is important. Having processes is important. Someone can make a latte one way, the same way, but they can also dot the I when they write the name on the cup differently. They can kind of make a little pattern in the foam. There's a way to follow a system while not having someone feel like they have to be someone they're not having them lose their unfair advantage. Seeing as we talked about football earlier, and best of luck to your Chiefs. As a 49ers fan, I can actually finally root for your Chiefs after you broke my heart last year. But here's another example that I've used is it's hard. Well, you can't turn Peyton Manning into a running quarterback. So, and I don't mean can't like deterministic, that person, doesn't have it in them, but why would he want to be a running quarterback? And so I would say systematizing things is important, but giving our people the ability to find their own voice, to have fun, to engage, it is also going to help not mute their creativity and not have them lose their unfair advantage. I mean, so.
Oh, I'm glad you went there. Yeah, I'm glad you went there, because that's where I was going next. Is both you and I have embraced the idea of like a personal brand of figuring out who we are and then doing the best at that, rather than trying to be somebody else or to fit into a box or like I said, kind of systematize and figure out how to be an efficient, effective robot. Is like my personal brand, I feel like, is creative nerd. Like when you think of somebody like Steve Martin, really intelligent, but also can be completely silly and goofy. He doesn't take himself seriously. I love what you were saying about that. Also, Bare Naked Ladies are my favorite band. They really smart guys, write really funny, intelligent lyrics, but they have a ton of fun with it. And I think even like a Neil deGrasse Tyson or something, you're like, he's one of the smartest dudes in the country, but still loves to play and have fun. And so when I think of kind of those role models for me, what I want to do is embrace that and use that special, unique advantage that you were talking about to live my best life, not to try and monetize it necessarily or do anything that's pressing too hard, but be more of that. If I can be more of that, I feel like the rest of things will fall in line. So what does that mean to you? What's your brand and how do you leverage that in your career?
What's my brand? I can tell you what I think I intend for my brand to be, and then you can tell me if I'm getting anywhere close based on what you see from me.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah, but I definitely do like to position myself as a storyteller of sorts. So, and it's not because everyone now in 2021 is a storyteller. And it's funny, now that Clubhouse, the app, is out and gotten a lot of popularity. I mean, so many people in their bio have like storyteller. That's fine. That's great. I want everyone to tell stories. I would say that from a brand perspective, a lot of times the way I view it is, stories we tell ourselves, the internal monologues, the life scripts, things that are told to us, things that we tell ourselves, stories we tell outwardly to prospects and clients, that whole imagined reality, that belief in fiction. And then, by fiction, I mean, if we're really becoming an effective salesperson or manager for that matter, we're really painting effective pictures of a reality that does not yet exist, but could. And we talked about that on the Serotonin podcast we did, a couple of years back, Mike. And then the third, obviously, is stories that we tell our teams and how to empower them versus enable them. And so I think that that's on brand for me. But as far as taking that and putting this to a side, I would say that for me, my brand is, like I said before, someone who is serious about business, way overly educated, and doesn't take himself too seriously. And I would say certain things that maybe other people would want to avoid, certain vulnerabilities, I like to lead with them. And the reason why I do, and I think I may have alluded to this earlier, is human beings aren't perfect. And in many ways, when we're trying to reach someone and help them in a business capacity or a life capacity, we actually sometimes do ourselves a disservice if we are too perfect. It's like, well, like, of course you could do that. You're flawless in that capacity. And I actually think that vulnerability is one of the most important tools to have, whether it's in a training class. And so even when I present the content and I'm working with clients, I mean, I show up and I do as best as I possibly can. And I was trying to hit a 10 out of 10, hit the ball out of the park every time. However, built in there is vulnerability, such as, let me share with you something that I did and how I fell flat on my face. And that, okay, not okay, people can say, well, geez, even someone who's the alleged expert in this stubs, his toe on a daily basis. And even within Sandler, I had a conversation with John Rosso, the legendary John Rosso. This is several years ago. And no, actually, I think it was Robin Green who had the conversation and told me the story. And Robin Green asked Rosso, and he's like, hey, Rosso, you've been doing this for 20 some odd years. You've hit every single milestone that's possible. You are on the Mount Rushmore of Sandler. Did you, like, when do you get to that point in the business where you feel totally secure and that things are going to be fine? And John goes, well, I mean, you're 20, so hopefully you're 21. And it's that bit of vulnerability that even someone
I'll let you know when I get there. Yeah,
I'll let you know when I get there. Yeah. So I think
that's great. And what, we hear that a lot, right? I was going to ask you real quick about imposter syndrome, and then I want to play a game with you before we wrap up. But you have done some really cool creative things with that brand of videos on LinkedIn and stuff, where you're kind of doing between two ferns interviews and using comedy and vulnerability to share some lessons with people. I'm wondering how you, especially as a trainer and like a sales and management trainer, there's always an imposter syndrome for me. It's like, oh, I'm going to tell you how the way things should be, or I'm going to put myself out there as a creative and it may or may not work. How do you deal with that, with your lifestyle business, with your creativity, and with what you share as sort of a thought leader? Does that creep into your mind at all, or are you pretty much confident with what you're doing?
I absolutely have imposter syndrome about many things, and I think we all tend to.
Right.
I think I have two answers. The first, so through the comedy process, which again I haven't done a ton, but I do enjoy it. I did it, a couple times, and been fortunate to have had success doing it. But I remember when I was preparing for that first set, the one at Caroline's, and I talked to two of my clients, and I kind of shared. I was like, "Hey, listen, nothing I'm going to say is going to be over the top, like risque. Like I'm not going to go completely, in a bad direction. But this is comedy. Like there's going to be some R-rated stuff in there." And I was like, I'm concerned if I share something like that, someone may make a judgment about me and maybe not want to hire me because of that. And both these clients, two clients and close friends, were like, Nema, if anything you say at a comedy club get someone in the audience to say, well, no, sir, not that guy, based on what he said at a comedy club. If they say that, you probably dodged a bullet because you don't want that person as a client anyway.
Right.
Now, obviously, there's a line. I'm not that like there are certain things that are funny, and one of my favorite quotes is I can't remember who said it, but comedians use lies to tell the truth.
Right.
And there's certain things in comedy that it's just it's intentionally hurtful or offensive for the sake of doing that. And then there's other things that are just stories that end up going that direction. And I think that I never would attempt to offend anyone, but I also can't really concern myself too much with how other people are going to respond to it. So that's kind of the first thing. And the second thing I will say that's tied to it is it has to be on brand. Okay. So I probably won't become like a Stephen Wright or Mitch Hedberg style comedian. Right. But for me, my on brand is a little self-deprecating. Some of these videos I put out there, I mean, even the videos that you and I did, I think I called you Mr. Clean. And then
Right. Yeah.
I did one with Casey Curtin out in Fresno where I put a fake advertisement into the video for like a pet psychic. I mean, it was just absolute silliness, but it made me laugh. And so what I realized, and this goes back to the imposter syndrome, what I realized is now when people work with me and the process begins, yes, I'm still have my personality, but I am all about the business. I'm not here to entertain you for the purpose of entertaining you. I'm here to hopefully help you learn. So make no mistake, I have a process mind. I'm here to deliver big ROI from my clients, but I can still have fun and be playful as to how I get there. And I can't really control how people view me. That's on them. I'm going to show up and be me. And if they like me, they'll probably call me. If they don't, they won't tell me and they won't call me. That's fine.
Well, I love that. I think you nailed it right there. It's almost a qualifier. You have to be you. And then there's 7 billion people on the planet. Some people are going to like it and some people aren't. Don't worry about the ones that aren't. All you need to do is find enough of the people who get it, who get the joke and get why it's funny to join you on this ride. And it's just enough to keep the thing going, right? If nobody finds it funny, then you were probably wrong. But somebody does, then you just need to find more of those people. And I think that's a great sales lesson too. But I want to wrap up here with a game. So I can't force you to play. Would you like to play or walk away, Nema?
Of course I will play.
All right, I'm spinning the wheel of weird. We have 10 games on here. Whichever one it lands on is the game we will be playing. And you got Comfort Zone Challenge. So I have a bunch of cards here on my desk. I'm going to shuffle up and draw different challenges for us. Nothing too scary, I don't think. We've already talked about this one today, but describe yourself in 3 words.
Silly, furry, grateful.
Good. I like that. I would again say like creative, nerd, and playful. I think are my top 3 words. Introduce yourself in an accent.
No one will ever accuse us for having planned this. Okay. All right, what was the last question? What did you just say?
Introduce yourself in an accent. What's your favorite accent?
This is the problem because now that because I want to do Borat. I do.
Yeah.
I do want to do Borat.
Well, I was thinking you got to go like you got to go Persian or Italian, so that we know know what roles you can play.
yeah. Okay, let's go Italian. My name is Nema, Semnani.
There you go. I like that. And for me, I'm not very good at other accents, but I suppose I could go Canadian, eh? Introduce myself as Mike Montague. That's not bad. That's better than I thought I was going to do. All right. Last one is really simple. We're going to do rock, paper, scissors here. So rock, paper, scissors. This is for bragging rights until we do our next podcast. Ready? One, two. We're going to do three and then shoot on four. Okay. Here we go.
On four.
So,
right, I got it. Right. Rock.
One, paper, scissors.
We're really bad at this. All right, let's try again.
Okay. So rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Where were you raised? Is this some like Kansas City stuff here? This is like
I don't know. Yeah, everybody has their own rules.
Rock,
Rochambeau and all that.
Scissors, shoot. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Rock, paper,
scissors,
shoot. Oh!
What are you do? You were late shooting, and below the screen, but I'll give it to you. Congratulations.
I was going to be Rock the entire time. Old dependable Rock. Nothing beats that.
Now I have to decide whether to play the intro or the outro music. I'm going to go with the intro music so we can wrap up here. Nema Semnani is a sales and management trainer and investor and all-around playful human. Find him at precision.sandler.com. And of course, follow him on LinkedIn. Always a good follow there, Nema Semnani. And if you want more information on Playful Humans, go to playfulhumans.com and join our clubhouse. You can take a playful personality quiz and see what type of player you are. And don't forget, subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube especially. Give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, suggest future guests, all of those for the podcast. I'm Mike Montague. If you can't be good at it. Go play.
Don't wait for tomorrow.
See, this would have been peppier for the intro.
Is this the intro at the end?
Chasing the sunshine.
Go play, everybody.